Every Chinese city looks the same. I've heard this a lot from foreign travelers. Skyscrapers, shopping malls, fast trains. People say it all blends together, but that's only part of the story. Is Tibet a closed-off region?
I came across this Chinese creator on my For You page on TikTok. He's fascinating. And not only is he fascinating, but also he's a writer. Let him introduce himself. He can do it better.
I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar. And in my book, Unpacking China, I explore a question many foreigners may ask.
Yeah. This creator joined TikTok and got so many comments concerning Tibet. People were like, okay, what about Tibet? What about Tibet? So he decided to embark on a 20 hours journey to Tibet, and that's his first time in that region. And yeah, so what you're going to see here isn't going to address what you hear, what you know about Tibet. I know there are so many misconceptions out there about this region, which isn't the focus of this video right here. But I will be sharing clips about his journey, how he went, what he discovered. It could also kind of answer some of the questions that you could be having, because the most common questions that I see people asking about is Tibet free to visit? Can someone visit Tibet? And also there's also the word of freedom that also follows all the time the word Tibet, free your girl, free. But I've shared enough videos about the yoga here, and I guess you have learned enough from that. So we are going to follow him on this journey as he's taking us through Tibet.
This is the train 1971 from Xining to Lhasa. It takes 20 hours, and I'm about to take the ride. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works. And this is my very first time going to Tibet. Not because I wasn't allowed to go. As a Chinese citizen, I can travel there freely. No special permit, no extra approval, but still, I waited. Why? Because, like many people in China, I have always felt a kind of respect for Tibet. The mountains, the altitude, the deep culture is a place people dream of visiting, but not a place you visit lightly. In fact, Tibet was the 31st out of China's 34 province-level regions that I have been to. It took me time on purpose.
I'm still on this 20-hour train to Lhasa, and I want to talk about something important but often overlooked in global conversations. It's about how Tibet develops and how the rest of China supports that process. For decades, China has used a system called pairing assistance. We called it 对口支援. It means wealth provinces directly support regions like Tibet by building roads, funding schools, sending doctors, and even experienced officials. Nearly every province in China has taken part, and the central government plays a major role too. In 2025, Beijing transferring 210 billion RMB, about $29 billion to Tibet through what's called physical transfer payments. This money supports public service, infrastructure, and long-term development. One name most Chinese people know is Kong Fansen, a government official who spent 10 years working very hard in Tibet and died while on duty. He became a national symbol of quiet dedication. And what are the results? By 2024, Tibet's per capita GDP ranked 20th among all Chinese mainland regions, not at the top and far from the bottom. Of course, numbers don't tell the whole story. There are still challenges, but development takes time, and meaningful support takes real commitment. Around the world, most people care about the same things: better schools, better hospitals.
Right now, I'm on a high-speed train racing across the rooftop of the world. This is Lhasa Yunchi Railway, the first ever high-speed rail line on the Tibetan Plateau. It runs through snow-capped mountains, earthquake zones, and deep valleys at an average altitude of 3,000 meters. That alone makes it an engineering miracle, but
is more than that. This railway is just one part of something bigger. China plans to connect Lhasa all the way to Chengdu through what's called the Sichuan-Tibet Railway. When completed by 2030, it will be one of the most challenging rail lines in the world. Why build something so difficult? Because China doesn't just plan for now, it plans for the next 20, 30, even 50 years. Construction began after decades of study, and now, little by little, the vision is coming to life. There are many things China still needs to improve, but when it comes to long-term infrastructure, this country thinks big, moves fast, and builds through mountains. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works, one story at a time. Right now, I'm in Ningzhi, a small city in eastern Tibet. Not many people abroad have heard of it, but it's one of the most peaceful, beautiful places I have visited in China. The streets are quiet, the air is clean, and you will hear both Mandarin and Tibetan spoken every day. Here, Tibetans, Han Chinese, and other groups live side by side, working, studying, raising families together. Yes, China has built a lot of infrastructure, and yes, cities share similarities. But if you slow down, you will see the culture, food, language, and way of life shift from region to region. China is not a copy-paste country. It's a patchwork of history, geographies, and communities. Some foreign friends ask me which national cities in China should we visit. Ningzhi is definitely one of my personal picks. I've just arrived in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, after a 20-hour train ride from Xining. And now, Tibet isn't some closed-off world like many outsiders imagine. Let me tell you what actually happened on the way here. On the train, I met a traveler from France. He told me getting the Tibet permit was easy. The hard part was getting a train ticket because so many people are coming. He's not wrong. In 2024, Tibet welcomed nearly 64 million tourists, including over 320,000 international visitors. That's a 16% increase from the year before. So while foreigners do need to join an organized tour, Tibet is not off limits. It's just popular. Here in Lhasa, you can call a ride with an app, pay everything by phone, find really good coffee, and yes, there is McDonald's and KFC. This isn't a place frozen in time. It's living, changing, rooted in tradition but connected to the modern world. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works, one story at a time. It's 10 p.m. now, and I'm walking through the streets of Lhasa, capital of Tibet. And here's something simple I want to say. Lhasa is a normal city. People are out shopping, families are eating barbecue by the street. Teens are lining up for bubble tea. Phones are everywhere. QR codes, e-bags, convenience stores, music. Yes, there are temples. Yes, there are pilgrims. Yes, this place has deep religious meaning, but it's also a city where people go to work, pay their bills, and live their daily lives. Sometimes, people from far away imagine Tibet as frozen in history or locked behind political doors. But that's not what I see tonight. I see people chanting, eating, buying snacks, walking home with friends. This isn't propaganda. This isn't denial. This is what everyday life looks like on a Tuesday night in Lhasa. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works, one story at a time. A hydropower project that could power more than 300 million people. Right now, I'm standing in Ningzhi, Tibet, next to the Yalun-Zangpo River. It flows through China, then into India and Bangladesh, where it's known as Brahmaputra. And this river is about to change history. Just days ago, China officially broke ground
on what may become the largest hydropower project in the world. Total investment 1.2 trillion RMB, planned capacity 60 million kilowatts, annual output 300 billion kilowatt hours of clean, renewable energy. That's more than twice the output of the Three Gorges Dam. The first unit is expected in 2035, full completion by 2045. Why build such a massive project here? Because this region has two things. Number one, huge elevation jobs, perfect for hydropower. Number two, it's part of Western China, where the government wants to boost development. This is part of something bigger. China's Go West strategy is about reducing regional equality, ensuring energy security, and hitting climate targets. Of course, a project this size raises hard questions. What about the environment? What about the downstream countries? And that's the reality of China. It's not just about growth. It's about how growth is managed, balanced, and debated. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works, one story at a time.
You know what someone from Lhasa told me tonight? He said, the mountains used to be green stone. Now they are turning green, not with trees, with moss. It sounds small, but it says a lot. Lhasa sits over 3,600 meters above sea level. It's cold, it's dry. It's not the kind of place you would expect to see plants spreading up the rocks. But as global temperature rises, even here, on the roof of the world, the land is changing. Now, here's something you may not know. Over 99% of Tibet's electricity comes from renewable sources, mainly hydropower with solar, wind, and geothermal too. That's a remarkable achievement, one that shows how seriously China takes clean energy, at least in places like Tibet. But it's not enough, because even if Tibet turns 100% green, climate change won't stop unless the rest of the world moves too. And if warming continues, Tibet won't just be affected, it will affect others. This region is home to the headwaters of major rivers, like the Yangtze, the Mekong, the Yalun-Zambo River, and the Yellow River. It's sometimes called Asia's water tower. If glaciers shrink, if rainfall patterns shift, hundreds of millions of people downstream could feel the impact. So next time you hear climate change and think it's far away, remember the moss on the mountain in Tibet.
This is Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, and it's a perfect place to talk about the question many foreigners have. What are the ethnic relations in China really like? China officially recognizes 56 ethnic groups. The Han majority makes up around 91% of the population. The remaining 9% are officially called minority groups. And the word minority can be misleading. Some of these groups are huge. Zhuang, nearly 20 million, mostly in Guangxi. Hui, around 11 million, found across the country. Uyghurs, about 12 million, mainly in Xinjiang. Miao, my own group, over 11 million, mostly in southwest China. Others like Tibetans, Yi, Tujia, Mongols, each number in the millions. Now, here is a big question. Do minorities receive special treatment in China? It's something many investors wonder about, but rarely ask out loud. Let's take a look at a few facts. College entrance exam bonus. Many minority students receive 10 to 20 extra points on the National University Entrance Exam, Gaokao. Relaxed family planning. During China's one-child policy era, Han families were restricted, but minority families were often allowed 2 or more children, depending on the region. Autonomous regions, China has 5, Xinjiang, Tibet, Inner Mongolia, Guangxi, and Ningxia. And by law, the regional chairperson must come from the local minority group. Cultural support. The government funds bilingual education, minority language media, festivals, and religious institutions like mosques and monasteries. In my book, Unpacking China, I wrote that China's ethnic policy is built on 2 ideas, unity and diversity. Minority cultures are protected and promoted, but always with a shared national identity. And let's be clear, this is not a perfect system. There are tensions, economic, cultural, political. Some minorities feel underrepresented, and some Han Chinese feel the preferential policies to minorities are unfair. But here is what's often missing from international headlines: daily life, shared school, intermarriage, mixed workplaces, quiet coexistence. Look around Lhasa today. Tibetan teenagers using smartphones, sipping milk tea, monks riding e-bikes past shopping malls, tradition and modernity side by side. And this topic isn't abstract to me. I'm a male, a minority. I grew up understanding what it means to be part of China's ethnic tapestry. China has no history of formal racial segregation like the US or apartheid law like South Africa. But it does operate with one guiding principle: national unity comes first. It's not always simple, it's not always smooth, but it's real, it's involving, and it deserves to be understood. What makes Tibetan Buddhism different? I'm standing at Dalai Lama's tree, one of the most important Tibetan Buddhist temples in China. But this place is more than just beautiful. It's the birthplace of Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelugpa school of Tibetan Buddhism. The Gelugpa school is the largest and most influential tradition of Tibetan Buddhism today, and is seen as a mainstream or orthodox school inside Tibet. Two of Tsongkhapa's disciples became historic figures. One became the first Dalai Lama, the other, the first Panchen Lama. Yes, both major lineage started right here. So what makes Tibetan Buddhism different from the Buddhism you see in cities like Beijing or Hangzhou? Tibetan Buddhism is more vision, symbolic, and ritual heavy. You will see monks in maroon robes, spinning prayer wheels, colorful prayer flags, scripture written in Tibetan, and deep, resonant chanting unlike anything in Han temples. Han Chinese Buddhism, in contrast, tends to be quiet, more focused on meditation, incense, and philosophy. Both traditions share core beliefs like karma, compassion, and letting go of desire. But the expression, language, and the ritual differ greatly, and both exist side by side in China. To understand religion in China, you have to understand its complexity, its diversity, and its local roots. But if you are a foreigner, it's different. Even after getting a Chinese visa, you can't just go to Tibet alone. You have to join a tour group through an approved travel agency. Yes, it's restrictive. And yes, it can be frustrating. But here is what I will say. Tibet isn't just a destination. It's a land full of history, complexity, and meaning. I'm not going in just as content creator chasing views, but as someone who wants to listen, observe, and understand. See you in Lhasa.
So my contribution on this compilation will be on the closeness of that area. You know, the more I research on China, the more I am getting excited and upset at the same time. Let me explain that. When I see what China has been able to do, with the external world, I feel a kind of hope and also rage, because that's what our countries in Africa haven't been able to do. I will speak particularly about my own country. I come from a country that has around 450 tribes, but a simple Google search will tell you 250. That's how it can tell you what is really happening. It can tell a lot with what is happening about the country. So I always mention here that I was born in war, I grew up in war, and there's war happening in my country as we speak right now. That's why I'm in a foreign land right now. So I am sharing this so that Chinese kind of understand what I mean by getting upset and happy at the same time. Hopeful, I mean, because China has been able to lock the external world from spoiling what they have going on. I come from a country that has a very rich culture, but we have war has quickly turned into our culture. Every time when people see you, it's like the only thing that you have to say about your country is how is the war progressing. It's like that's the only thing we have to say. And what fueled conflict in our country that even gave way to terrorist groups to come into our country started with what you are seeing, what you are hearing about this region, Tibet, the Yorga, that's how it started. Countries that have multiple tribes are always divided through such narratives. And for a long time, the world gave a deaf ear to what was happening in our country because the media was always giving excuses that it's a tribal war, while militants had got in were terrorist groups and they were killing everybody. Like they were doing the despicable, and it's still happening to this day. But for me, seeing that a government can be able to lock all these outsiders with their narratives to keep their people safe, it's hope. Like, it gives me hope. It's possible. I always wish that our leaders could even take note from what China is doing, because keeping a country that is, let me say, overpopulated like China, though they're saying that their population is declining, I don't want to get into that, keeping it peaceful is not a joke in the world that we live in. As you know, every hour there's war, there's one country that has to be mentioned, there's a region that always has to be mentioned, and they're still at work. They are still ruining peace in the world, because unfortunately that's their way of getting power. So it's not by surprise, but I am giving this a tick. I don't know. I really don't know, but that's my take on this. I don't know what you think about this. I also got another creator who has been mistaken for a Uyghur, because she's been living in Xinjiang for a long time, and yeah, she's kind of also having the same idea as what I'm having. Like, just listen to her. It's from Xinjiang. Listen.
After making videos debunking anti-Chinese propaganda, I support the Great Firewall even more, because these issues genuinely upset Chinese people. I'm genuinely upset arguing with people in my comments consistently about the lies that the United States is proliferating across the world, because it's not just Americans who believe this, it's most of the world. Yet, nobody has offered a better solution than what China has been doing. There's not forced labor camps or a genocide happening. There is a crackdown on religious extremism, so there are no more terrorist attacks in China. There hasn't been one since 2017 because of the measures that China has taken. And nobody has offered me another solution for this. When the United States says there's terrorism happening somewhere, they go into a country and drop a bunch of bombs. Do you see China doing this? No, you don't.